Hello, everybody. It is time to handle everything from UFC 317 from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, Paradise, Nevada, but really Las Vegas, Nevada. And this card was pretty damn awesome. The fights that I expected a lot from delivered a lot. The fights that I didn't really expect much from, they weren't great. I'm not going to watch them again. There were a couple on this card, but they were what they were supposed to be. There wasn't a fight that kind of let me down here. Like, everything was good. Everything was at least what it was supposed to be, if not better, particularly in the case of the Rodriguez versus Jack Manson fight, the Alvin Hines versus Junta Deniz. Some ways worse, because I was kind of hoping for a knockout there, but if you're going to say you're going to watch Deniz versus Hines for 15 minutes, go the distance, that's not a bad way to go with it. That's not a bad way for that to play out. Cortez versus Araujo is a little bit dull, but hey, it's what it is. Jacoby Smith, maybe there's a lot of like anti-Jacoby Smith going on right now, and I don't really know why off of that performance. Maybe I just had like way lower expectations. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think that the Jacoby Smith that exists now is what people think he is. And don't get me wrong, super high ceiling, and I'll talk more about that fight, but there is, I don't know, I just had lower expectations, I guess, in a nutshell. Hyder Emil versus Jose Delgado was a very good fight. We had Terrence McKinney doing Terrence McKinney things. We had Peyton Talbot versus Felipe Lima. That was very good. We had a fight of the year candidate between Joshua Van and Brandon Royval. We had Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, which was not an amazing fight. There are better fights for both of those guys not too long ago, but it was entertaining. It was fun. It was it had some back and forth. And of course, the two title fights, despite ending in relatively quick stoppages, 2.5 minutes in the main event and then third round early on in the co-main event, were very good, but very good fights, even if they were really what was expected. And I guess that in a nutshell, we'll go through the picks real quick. I won the main event, I won the co-main, I won the Van fight, I won Dariush, so I won the last 4 fights. But there was a period there where I was doing kind of bad because I had Lima, Hermanson, and Emil, and they all lost back to back to back. And then I started the night really solid with Cortez, McKinney, Smith, and Deniz. Mind you, with the exception of maybe, I guess, the McKinney fight, those were very highly favorited picks, I guess, in a nutshell. Like, if I'm looking at the betting odds here, the was I against the grain option on the matter, Deniz was minus 300s. Smith was the largest favorite in the history of the UFC. McKinney was minus 100s. Like I said, somewhat of a prop pick, and then like minus 200s mid to high for Cortez. So obviously not much going on there. And then Emil was my underdog pick, and he lost. I think actually, did all my underdog picks lose? Hermanson was an underdog. He lost. No, Dariush was an underdog. He picked up the W. And Van and Royval was a bit of a weird circumstance, but I wouldn't say either of them was a dog. So anyways, picked up 2 dog picks. But anyways, let us roll on here and let us talk about the fights here. So main event, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, and Topuria knocks him out in the first round. And the commentary was embarrassingly bad on this fight because it's bizarre. And I'm going to put this on Rogan mostly because Rogan kind of leads to all the bad commentary from DC. Like, he brings it out of him. But there was just moments where he's like, we've never seen this happen to like Charles Oliveira. Yeah, we have. We actually really have. He's been stopped in the first round like 3 times in the UFC. Is it exactly this way? No, but like unless you're going to call every single fight result being like this unique special snowflake, which they are, then that's a ridiculous statement. And there was also a moment in the fight, like right before the knockout, where Rogan is like, I don't know if Topuria can take these kind of shots. Boom. Down goes Charles Oliveira. Anyways, it was a very solid performance from Topuria. He was able to do some things on the ground. So like the grappling does appear to still be there. It does seem like grappling at even lightweight is not really going to be a path to beating him necessarily. I mean, maybe, but not necessarily. And there is still some questions about the range game, obviously, because Oliveira wasn't going to answer them. In that regard, this was a perfect this was a perfect fight in that regard. If you're going to ignore the sporting implications that this should have been Arman Tsarukyan, if you're going to ignore the idea that you want to get a read on the weaknesses of Topuria at 155, and from a promotional standpoint, I could see why you absolutely would. You just want an exciting, like, banger fight. This was perfect. Charles Oliveira came out there. He was game. He was aggressive. And he really got bopped repetitively and kind of got put away pretty effectively. He got knocked down. He couldn't really get the ground game going. Couldn't get the takedowns going. Couldn't really make things happen in that regard. Got outboxed. Got outstruck. Got outgrappled when it did hit the ground. I mean, I guess that depends a little bit on what you consider that. But Topuria was able to get on top of him. And before he disengaged from the grappling aspect to kick Oliveira in the leg and eventually knock him out, he was doing fine. So, great performance by Ilia Topuria. After the fight, we get Paddy Pimblett coming in the cage, partially because of Rogan, partially because of Topuria. Obviously, that's the direction both of those guys would like to see this title go. And we get a shove. We get some really pretty empty trash talk. But you know what? It's a post-fight cage stare down, I guess. And outside of the Ken Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz one back in UFC 51, I haven't really been particularly a fan of any of them, if we're being completely honest. So we got some practice, and then we move on. And of course, Dana White is I'm sure there's a thought here from Dana about like playing off like I don't want to do the Paddy fight and I don't want to do the Arman fight. I'm sure there's a thought there that if I neg them both, the fans will rally somehow. But like, I've always found that a bit weird. Like, you're the promoter. You're supposed to be making us want the things that you want to promote. And instead of doing this negative bullshit, like try to make it like against the authority. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see Topuria versus Pimblett. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do kind of want to see Pimblett get destroyed. So in that regard, I do want to see the fight, but it makes no sporting sense to give him that shot. It is Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan should have been in this fight. Forget the next one. And he weighed in as a backup, which has been used as an excuse to give a title shot before, notably Colby Covington. And the only thing against it from any of the fans and from Dana White is, well, he pulled out of that fight with Islam Makhachev. So what? You've had guys miss weight for a title fight and then get a title shot. You've had fights fall apart due to injury that you have rebooked time and time and time again. Like, you have gone back to the well like 3, 4, 5 times with some fights. Just give Tsarukyan the title shot. Whatever. I assume we're going to get Pimblett. Dana White's saying he doesn't want Pimblett, but like, I'm assuming we're going to get Pimblett. That's all there is to it. Like, I imagine that there would have been a specific like narrative for Joe Rogan to sell if they actually weren't going to go with the Pimblett route. So that's my thought. You have Topuria wants it. I assume Pimblett wants it, but maybe not. And you have Rogan and a solid section of fans that do want it. So there you go. We have a double champion, Ilia Topuria. He's very much the Conor McGregor without the Irishness, and at least for the time being, without the legal issues. And we move on to the co-main event. Alexander Pantoja defending the title against Kai Kara-France. Now, this was a bit of a placeholder fight. Kai Kara-France didn't possess really a lot of interesting questions for Pantoja. He hadn't really earned the title shot because he was 1-2 in his last 3. And it was really just a stance of Pantoja had cleaned the division out, really, and this is what we have left. A guy that he did beat on tough, but hasn't beaten in the UFC, in the big stage. And, you know, it's been 9 years? Yeah, 2016 to 2025. So, yeah, 9 years between the two fights. A chance for some things to change. And turns out they changed in Pantoja's favor. Round 1 comes out and Pantoja is doing his thing. He's putting the pressure on. He's not giving Kai Kara-France any room to breathe, to do anything. Takes him down, controls him for 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Gets a submission attempt there with a rear naked choke. Gets the back. Works him on the ground, does his thing, boom, boom, boom. And the big thing here is that caused Kai Kara-France to come out in the second round and be like, very cautious, like very, very cautious, which led to Joe Rogan's like nightly tangent, which was everybody is gassing. Apparently. Everyone is gassing in ways Joe Rogan has never seen before. Because he was like, yeah, I think Pantoja's getting tired. I think Pantoja's going to gas out here. And like, it's like, no, Pantoja's just being like kind of low output because he doesn't have to be high output. He doesn't have to go hard for it. Kai Kara-France is like skittering around the outside, and Pantoja's just kind of doing his thing. Still outlanding him in significant strikes. Still got the takedown, 1 minute top control, and did his thing. Clear 10-9 round for Pantoja. Round 3 comes around. Pantoja again gets the takedown, gets the back, gets the running choke. Boom, boom, boom. And it's done. Now, I'm going to say this. What is with the Alexander Pantoja hate? Because on Twitter, I ended up like blocking 2 people that I like their takes normally. Like, I enjoy them, but like it got so bad. I'll probably unblock them at some point. But it was just so bad. And it was all over the place because they're like, Pantoja shouldn't get custom shorts. Pantoja's not one of the greatest fighters in the flyweight history. My dudes, my people, my fellow fans, my fight aficionados. The UFC has had 5 flyweight champions. 5 total history. All 5 of those, by default, are amongst the greatest of all time. Like, that is the problem. You do not have enough champions to exclude any of them. And Pantoja, of those champions, outside of Mighty Mouse is, up, hold your hand to the ceiling and then drop it way down, and that's where everyone else is, has the second most title defenses. He has actually more title defenses than anyone else combined that doesn't include Mighty Mouse. He has cleaned out this division. Like, realistically here, I'm going to put this out here. UFC rankings real quick. Hang on. I should really have the UFC rankings up like right away. I really, really should. UFC rankings. Nope, that's not the site I want. What fan rankings? No, I want the UFC's rankings, please. Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. Flyweight. So Pantoja has beaten Brandon Royval multiple times, who's number 1. He's beaten Brandon Moreno multiple times, who's number 2. He's not beaten Amir Albazi, but he's now beaten Kai Kara-France multiple times. He's beaten Manol Kape in a abomination of a fight, but still, he has done that. He has beaten Steve Erceg, who's number 9. He has beaten, I think that's about, Kai Asakura, who's number 14. And Asakura should probably be higher, but also lower. It's weird. Asakura getting signed and getting a title shot. It's a bit weird. Like, this dude has cleaned this division out. He has done his due diligence and is probably the second greatest flyweight in the history of the UFC. And there is such weird hate, such bizarre hate, such bizarre hate for the division. I will never understand it. I get that there are limitations to flyweight. They're small. There's not a lot of power. We love our knockouts, and flyweight is, by virtue of its meta, producing relatively low numbers of knockouts, but the fights are very good, very enjoyable, very fun. And if you're like, I need my knockouts, I need my fix, okay, fine. Put it low, put it down near the bottom. But there's like a bizarre hate for it. And it's for Pantoja. And I get it. He's not like Mighty Mouse, who Mighty Mouse had something special that every fight came up that he would do something a little bit crazy, or maybe not every fight, but like most fights, most notably the mousetrap armbar. He was an exceptional athletic fighter. Whereas with Pantoja, the exceptional nature of him is his durability and his hard-nosed doggedness. And that's not as impressive. That's not as wow factor. I get that. I understand that. There are some fights that are not super pretty. The Erceg one is a great example of that. But the dude is beating everyone in front of him, and you lot are being weird about it. Just being weird. We pretty much had the next title shot booked with Joshua Van coming in, and they seem both down to do it. I don't know if Dana White made it official or really had a comment about it. I didn't watch the post-fight presser. I really can't stand to hear Dana White talk for that long, but I haven't seen anything like... I haven't seen Dana White come out and try and fight it. We'll put it that way. So, presumably that'll be the deal. And we had before that, we had possible Fight of the Year candidate Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. And very, very quickly, I was alleviated of my concerns. Because coming to this fight, I was concerned that Van was taking this on short notice. He had just fought 3 weeks ago. He was making weight again. And when he comes out in the first round and he wins the first round, in my opinion, it's a close enough round. If you thought that Royval had some meaningful shots in there, I guess you could give it to him. I don't know. But like, he got outlanded 52-42 in the first round. And like, if Royval gets outlanded, I don't know how he wins a round. But like, I became very, very, very relaxed about that, because I'm like, oh man, Van's already finding his range. Van's already finding his counter punches. Van's already starting to do the things that I thought would take till the second round to start happening. And he did a great job. He fundamentally did that. He got it done, was working his way through. Round 2 comes around. Royval starts sitting down on some stuff and being even more active, like insane. Like, Brandon Royval landed 87 strikes in the second round, which is insane. There are, let me put it this way, for comparison purposes, the only fighters to land 87 strikes in the entire fights on this card were Van, Royval, and Junta Didiz. That was it. In that one round, he outlanded all but 3 people, one of which is him, on this card. So that is insane. That is insane pace and volume. And I gave him that round just on the work rate. And you could give it to Van. It'd be no problem. Van, I still think, probably landed the cleaner stuff. A couple nice counters in there. But Royval had some stingers. He had some stingers with the lead hand, with the left. And I gave him the round. Round 3 comes around. Van is still working things out. He's dinging it up on the counters a little bit more. He's figuring out a way to slow not slow down, because he landed 87 strikes again, but to be a little bit closer in the output, keep it down to single digit strike differences. It was 7 strikes total in differential. He also starts landing this side kick stomp to the leg, which is really, really screwing up Royval. It's taking his leg out from under him. It's compromising his base. It's compromising his ability to be aggressive. And great, fantastic work. Van drops him near the end of the round, and that pretty much seals the deal. That didn't win the fight for Van. I had him up already. I had him winning, but the third round was in play at that point, and that knockdown just kind of sealed the deal. Boom, you're down. Gets the job done. Joshua Van, phenomenal fight, phenomenal work. Solved Royval really, really early. Did his thing. Royval probably should have gone to a grappling game at some point. Dude is like a really dangerous grappler. I know he's not a good wrestler. I understand that. I get that. But try something. You're a guy who can actually drop like for bad positions and scramble your way out of them. So I would have preferred to see that, because there was after the second round, I don't think that there was any real solutions for Royval on the feet based on what he has historically been able to do. So Joshua Van, fantastic performance. Kid, you're getting a title shot at 23 years old. You've been training for 5 years. It's insane. I'm sure there's a similar rise to prominence, like John Jones, for example, up at higher weight classes. But down here, I don't think there's anything like this. I don't think there's anything close. Joshua Van, phenomenal work, doing the thing, and also doing the thing without like the UFC giving him the silver spoon treatment. It's like, and I'm not shitting on these fighters. I'm not trying to downplay them, but like guys like Sean O'Malley, the UFC became obviously very interested in pushing. Peyton Talbot, who we'll talk about in a bit, another example of a fighter that the UFC became very interested in pushing from earlier on. Van is not that guy. He's just the dude who is picking up the phone when they call. He's taking what's in front of them, and he's just showing a phenomenal game. Like, an insanely strong, well-rounded, maybe not that well-rounded, but like very well-rounded as a striker, and like capable of grappling. It is phenomenal. It is something special. It is something special. So that's dope. Benil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. So round 1 starts. Moicano's on the front foot, kind of leading the dance, kind of doing a good job, coming out early, like having the best version of the fight that he is capable of having. and takes the first round, particularly after he knocks Barboza or not Barboza, Dariush down and puts him down and like almost finishes him. There's like a whole spinning thing, a whirling top. He gets the job done. It's a close round. Prior to that, Dariush was landing some struggle shots. But in the second round, Dariush is like, what if I just lead the dance? And also, what if I start like implementing my clinch wrestling game? And that was the thing that cut me from picking Moicano really at any point. Like there was never a point where I was on Moicano for this fight, because he has one path of victory against Dariush, and that is the knockout. And that's something he doesn't really do. Like it's on the table because Dariush is fragile. We saw that in the first round. He got dropped. But that was it. That's not how he usually wins. Normally he wins by trying to grapple and trying to make things happen. And every time they clinched up, every time they got into a wrestling exchange, every time they got grappling, Dariush would crush him. Dariush puts up 5 takedowns on 5 attempts. He stuffs 3. He's on top for 4 minutes and 46 seconds in the second round. It's a very dominant round. He's on top for only a minute in the third round, but like again, like there is nothing going for Moicano that is functional. And the commentary, again, I think this one I'm a little bit more forgiving on. And why I'm saying that is because, admittedly, when DC and Rogan are talking about like he needs to not wrestle here, he needs to strike. They're talking about Moicano, that he needs to go for the kill. He needs to try to hurt Dariush. They are right. Fundamentally, they are correct. What I do, however, dock them points for is that they were like confused about it. And like, this is how Moicano fights. Moicano establishes grappling dominance. That's how he wins. When he doesn't have grappling dominance, that's when he loses. And that was the case here. That was the case. So, again, it's like Rogan doesn't do his homework. DC is famous for not doing his homework. And it does frustrate me. People are like, the obvious comeback is like, well, you wouldn't do any better. It's like, as an entertainment guy, no. But as a guy who does his homework, yeah. This is like no. I'm not asking you even to know the like guys like Alvin Hines who are debuting on this card. I'm not asking you to know super in detailed stuff about they ended up not fighting on this card, but Jackson McVeigh or Christopher Ewarts. I'm asking you to know about like Hanato Moicano. I'm asking you to know about UFC veteran, a guy you have called multiple times, Hanato Moicano. I am asking you to remember the fights that you commented on. That's all I'm asking for. Anyways, so Dariush gets the win, talks about wanting to be a champion, which it's not going to happen. There was a time, there was a very brief second in time where Dariush could have been the Charles Oliveira champion, basically. He was in that same space when Oliveira became champion, but like it's not gonna happen. I'm sorry, you're a little bit too fragile, and he at least didn't mention anything specific about Iran in his post fight. We were joking about like what is he gonna say if he wins about Iran and Christianity, and it was pretty tame. It was pretty tame at the end of the day. Then we had Peyton Talbot versus Felipe Lima. Okay, I'm going to have a negative and I'm going to have a positive on this one. So here's the positive. Peyton Talbot looked good. He's clearly working on the aspects of his game that let him down against Ronnie Barcelos, which is defensive wrestling and specifically chain wrestling, and also just some better ideas on the ground, because some of his ideas on the ground in his previous fights have been disrespectful. Like they've worked out because he's had that edge, but like he's at the point where he's not going to have that get out of jail free card of what if I just do something really stupid and it'll work because I'm a phenomenal athlete and Nick Aguirre isn't and Cameron Simon isn't. That's not going to work out for you anymore. It was very, very positive in that regard. He won, which is huge, which is big, which is phenomenal. He looked good doing it, and he didn't squeak this out. Like he clearly won this fight. So that's the positives. That's the good. That's the greatness. And he did that while staying at a small camp. So like obviously there is great potential, great source for growth in his game. Now, the downside. One, I think his striking defense did look a little bit regressed. Maybe that's just focusing on the wrestling, obviously. You're worried about the takedown attempt, you get bonked, It's the classic Randy Couture, Tim Sylvia moment where Tim Sylvia's talking about, like, I need to avoid the clinch. I need to avoid the wrestling with Randy Couture. Randy Couture is a monster as a Greco-Roman wrestler. And then he gets bowled over with, like, the first shot of the fight. And it's like, whoa, how'd that happen? It's over fixating on the primary threat and not maybe dealing with the secondary threat. So not super concerning, but, like, it does have to be said, he got hit. Whenever Lima was at range and, like, just decided to actually just strike with him, he was able to hit him pretty well. He was able to counter Talbot's jab quite effectively. So Talbot would hit the jab, he would either hit or he would miss, and Lima would, like, come in with the two-piece and, like, be all over Talbot. And again, I think the part of that is that Talbot is used to being so much faster than his opponent, and that his pull counters will work really, really well. And this is a reminder that maybe not the case. And the focus on the wrestling, like I said. The other negative I'm going to say is I do think Lima fought relatively poorly here. And the reason I say that is that every time Lima came forward, it was just to attempt to take down. There was no multifaceted, multi-layered attack. There was no strikes to set that up. There wasn't even a particularly high pace, honestly, because, I mean, Lima, what did he end up throwing in this fight? Yeah, he 37 of 70 per UFC stats on terms of strikes. So, like, they were not, the pace that I was expecting was not there. The aggression that I was expecting was not there. The blend of striking and wrestling was not there. So I think Lima fought poorly. But I don't want to take too much away from Talbot. He looked good. He did the thing. And more importantly, I don't even think that it's he looked good and that he won. It's that the right focuses, the right improvements appear to actually be in play. So Talbot has a very good idea of what went wrong against Ronnie Barcelos and is trying to fix that. And I am hoping, and it might be a fool's hope, that he's going to look at this Lima fight and also focus on the things that were not really working against Lima. And next time out, we're going to even see a better version of Talbot. So that would be really, really interesting. Dude has an incredibly high ceiling. He has probably the second highest ceiling of anybody on this card that wasn't in a title fight. We're going to talk about Jacoby Smith later. He is number one. So there's that. I don't have a lot to say about Rodriguez versus Jack Hermansson. It was going somewhat like what I expected. Hermansson was landing more strikes. He was doing some decent work avoiding things. The footwork was there. Some of the counters I wanted was there. The jab was there. And then he got terminated. He got knocked out and ate an extra hammer fist for good measure at 4:21 of the first round. And Robocop Rodriguez gets the win. The other thing I guess I could talk about is Rodriguez. What do I think about the extra shot, the extra hammer fist? It's up to the referee to stop the fight. I would say 90% of fighters would do the exact same thing, so I'm not going to get worked up over it. It was just Herb Dean being slow to stop this fight. And that was kind of it. So I don't have any particular issue with it. I didn't like watching it. I didn't like watching the super necessary follow-up, but it is what it is. And then we had a 26-second knockout between Hyder Emil and Jose Delgado. It's a beautiful knockout. I don't know if it says as much, though, about it. Like, I've always said this, is like people get really, really, really worked up over quick knockouts. They get really hyped for the fighter going forward, and it's like, I don't know how much that proves. Like, I still have a lot of questions about Delgado. That fight before the knockout was not necessarily super good. Like, when he had to clinch up with Emil overpowered him pretty quickly, and we only saw 12 strikes get landed. So I don't really know. I don't know. But it was a cool knockout, and enjoy it. And Delgado's young, and I trust the gym he's with, and I like his mindset. I like the fact that he's asking questions, probing creativity, expanding the bounds of his fighting style. So I don't think he's bad or anything. I just sort of question how much this actually means going forward. But he could be He could be very, very good. So that is on the table. And then moving on down, we've got Cortez versus Araujo. Went as I expected. Cortez outlanding Araujo significantly, out wrestling Araujo significantly, and just generally outworking her. And again, commentary not really seeming to know what Araujo's even good at, which is again a disturbing thing when you consider she's been around in the UFC for. Actually, I've got UFC stats up right now. How many fights is it? Mm-hmm. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This was her 13th fight. So, and there's a couple of pay-per-views in here that I'm sure Joe Rogan has done. So, anyways, not much to say. I mean, I've kind of always been very lukewarm on Cortez because I don't find her fights thrilling. I think that a great deal of her fandom is still that she's hot. And I've always never really got that. To be clear, this isn't a prudish, how dare you find a female fighter attractive. I find a lot of them attractive. But the whole idea of like that being the source and the predominant notion of your fandom of that fighter is to me very, very bizarre. Like there is no female fighter that I am a fan of because my dick is a fan of them. You know what I'm saying? Like that just doesn't exist. But and I don't think it should. But hey, she's got the win. She's got talent. She's not bad or anything. I just think that she's kind of stopped developing in any real meaningful way. Beyond like she learned some like volume boxing, and then that kind of just was the end of her development. And it's a disappointment because I thought she could be much, much better than she is. And some of it is injuries. Obviously, she's had some medical issues. But I think the problem is that she's 31 years old. She's a final product, and that final product is like low end, top 10 maybe. And it could have been really a lot more. Terrence McKinney did Terrence McKinney things, picking up a guillotine submission over Slaviklaus Borsho. And I think I'm done with seeing Borsho fight, honestly. Like, we're at the point where there were hopes for him to develop. He has a really solid kickboxing background. He shows up at Team Alpha Male, where, like, he's going to learn to wrestle. He's going to learn to do some things. He's going to actually be pretty good. And instead, what we've gotten is a guy who's lost to Terrence McKinney, Tom Nolan, Chase Hooper, Nazim Sadikov, Mike Davis, Mark Diakese, and his biggest win is Mahashate. Well, I guess it's honestly his biggest win is his Contender Series win over Chris Duncan. Like that's the problem, and it's like, and the game isn't coming anywhere. The game is not doing things. It's not developing. It's not going places. So I don't know. I'm kind of done with it. He's 33 years old, and this is kind of the end of the road for my interest in him. And I'm sure he'll stick around. He's a Team Alpha Male guy. They tend to have really long leashes, but I don't know. I'm quickly running out of guys in the UFC that I don't think would just beat him. I guess that's the problem. And for McKinney, it's like, dude is going to win in the first round or die. And that is his fights going forward. But hey, when he wins, it is a fun time. So there you go. He was aggressive with the Jesus stuff, though. Jesus is coming back. Hide your kids. Just like, it's a bit weird. This was the face of the fight that was it was very, the post-fight interviews were very weird. There was a lot of like very pro Joe Rogan energy, and more so than usual. Like the fighters are always pretty deferential to Joe. Like a lot of them want to get on his podcast. They want that chance to build their brand, which is smart. And they tend to be like really, really slightly bootlicky with him. But this was like turned up to 11. This was a bit much. This was a bit far. Then we had that Jacoby Smith fight where, Smith is the biggest favorite. I don't have a lot to say about this fight. He dominated Nico Price and eventually rear naked choked him. There's not really much to talk about fight-wise. I will say, like, people are like, man, I was like really high on him and he was really sloppy here. And he was. And he got really tired here. And he did. But, like, I kind of just expected that. Like I have honestly thought that don't get me wrong, his striking form can be good, but it's never good for like an entire fight. It is definitely something he's still battling with muscle memory wise, and sometimes the jankiness, the clubbiness, the boinkiness comes out in his striking. It happens in basically every fight, so I wasn't surprised that it happened here. He was able to ragdoll Nico Price in the wrestling exchanges. Price had some moments on the ground where he would like start going for like weird kind of submission ideas. Like, it's Nico Price on the ground. It's always very weird. Like, if you think about like what is Nico Price famous for, it's like bizarre stoppages on the ground and strange stuff. So that was not especially interesting. But, it was weird and so on. He did the job and then yelled Joe Rogan's name repetitively in the post-fight. Please do not do that again. That would be my thing. Like, Jacoby Smith, keep doing what you're doing, keep developing things, get to the point where like that form of like punching mechanics, that becomes just like kind of the actual muscle memory for you. And of course, maybe like learn to pace yourself a little bit more so that the cardio doesn't look as ugly as it did, and you'll be great. This guy has an incredibly high ceiling, but if I were to add something new, it's don't yell Joe Rogan's name in post-fight interviews. And the opening fight of the night was Yunta Diniz versus Alvin Hines. This was a fun fight. Hines is a crowd favorite already. He came out here and showed a lot of heart, a lot of durability, a lot of gumption, pretty good cardio for a heavyweight also. He's been training for just like 4 years. Like, he's been training for as long as Joshua Van has and started way later. So there you go. Like, there might actually be some development for him still. He, by the way, the criminal charges that they kind of tiptoed around is he was guilty of armed robbery and served his time. And I have no problem with that. This is the thing. I had a guy on Twitter asking me about this because I've historically been very, very anti-Cedricus Dumas, who was supposed to be on this card and got pulled out. And they're like, why are you not calling out Alvin Hines for being a felon? And the difference is I believe in rehabilitation. I believe in letting the past be the past. And Hines appears to have learned from that and become better. It's kind of like when Mike Perry showed up in the UFC. I wasn't banging a drum going, how do we have this felon here? Like, it became that because Perry started doing illegal stuff outside of the cage. But the problem with Dumas is Dumas keeps getting arrested like while in the UFC. Like it's not that he made a mistake, paid his debt to society. It's that you are continuing to do that mistake and continuing to endanger society. Whereas, as far as I can tell, Hines has paid his debt and is I don't know if I want to say productive member of society, but productive enough to be a cage fighter. There you go. Diniz was able to land pretty much at will on him at his feet. Like, it was obviously like you're making your debut as a very green, very raw fighter against a guy who does not have a complete MMA game by any means, but does have a very good, by heavyweight standards, kickboxing game. He's going to beat your leg up. He's going to hit you with counters. He's going to have cleaner technique and better form. And that was the case for 15 minutes. Hines ate a lot of punishment. I mentioned that Diniz was outside of the Van versus Royval fight, the only person to exceed 100 significant strikes landing 32, 37, and 43. By the way, this was the beginning, of course, of the Dana White going, he's gassing, he's slowing down. It's like, here's the thing. Deniz's most active, most busy round was the third round. I know a lot of that came after there was an eye poke stoppage where Diniz got poked in the eye and got to kind of like reset a little bit. But for heavyweight, his cardio looked fine. I'm not saying he wasn't tired. Of course he was. It's heavyweight in the third round. But he was fine. It's just that Hines was still coming back with like intensity. Like the third round was also Hines' busiest round. Hines threw 108 strikes in the third round. That is insane. So it made Diniz seem to be like, fading out of it a little bit. So credit to Hines. He'll win some fights, I'm sure. Heavyweight is a place where being tough and being hard-nosed and having cardio, that's going to win you some fights. For Diniz, I don't know if this is a good fight for him because he gets a W, and that's good because he was coming off of a loss, if I'm not very much mistaken. Yeah. He lost to Marcin Tybura before this. And this was his most active fight, obviously. But after coming in and knocking out Austin Lane in his debut, he's now gone to decision twice and lost by TKO once. So it's probably killing his buzz. So that he couldn't get the finish here is probably a bad thing. Because he was landing some very clean shots. And Hines did not have answers for him beyond keep pressing forward, keep being aggressive. So, in that regard, not phenomenal, but he gets the W. So he gets a chance to show something more. And who knows, maybe Hines will actually prove to be something more than I'm thinking he's going to be. Which is just kind of like an action fighter who has a decent fandom behind him. So, there you go. That was the UFC card. I don't think we have a card next week. I think we have the rare a week off, if I'm not totally mistaken. If you don't mind, let me check the UFC calendar, and we'll talk about what's coming up next. Probably actually wouldn't be a bad thing for me because I have a family thing next weekend. UFC. What's up next? Yeah, our next one's July 12th. Oh, it's the Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira fight card. That is not good. That is bad. I'm looking for a fight I'm looking forward to on this card. And Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier, that is a diamond in the rough. I am here for that fight. And big fan of Fatima Klein, but she's fighting Melissa Martinez, who I don't have a lot of faith in. So, Chidi and Jaquani Jake Matthews, that'll be fine. That'll be a perfectly serviceable fight. Chris Curtis coming down to 170 against Max Griffin. That'll be fine. And that is about it. I'm not remembering who Mitch Ramirez is. Quickly look at this. Oh, yeah, the guy who got leg kicked by Moises into oblivion. Yeah, I'm not going to... this is not a good fight card. This UFC 317 card proves that I can, in fact, be positive on a UFC card. But if it's going to be crap, I'm going to call it like it is. So that'll be a rough preview. But I hope you enjoyed the recap here, and check out my social medias and all the links down below, to the left, to the right, above, wherever it happens to be on the platform you are consuming this podcast. Have a good day, and try not to die in the heat.